Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormy B Man, and I am back welcoming you to another post-fight show with Stormy B Man and Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. As this evening we gonna cover the DAZN card, which was Povetkin versus White 2 for this Saturday, March 27th, 2021. And we're going to get down and talk about this pretty decent fight card that took place. I mean, I've seen worse, but it was capped off with some action that made everybody feel better about the whole thing. So we're going to talk about that this evening and maybe have some thoughts and conversations on what can be happening going forward in the heavyweight division, because I do see where we have room for some changes on the horizon. It's just a matter of if these fights are going to get made or not. So with that being said, going to get on down into it. Welcome my brother and co-host in here, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. What's going on with you, Reggie? You there? We can't hear Reggie. What's going on with that? You want to try to bounce out and come back in, Reggie? I don't know what's going on with that. But, yeah, I want to welcome everybody that's out there. We got a few people out there in the chat. Let's see, we got Mark Steams out there, says salute Stormy and Reggie. OG Eric in St. Louis is out there, says salute Stormy. He says, you hear that, Eddie Hearn? Yeah, we heard him. Kano Local Sports is out there, my brother. He says, I'm listening in. Okay. Kenneth Johnson says salute. Salute to you, Kenneth Johnson. And who else we got? We got Shamar Rashawn Shalom. He says salute Stormy and Reg. White looked decent tonight. He was in shape. Tone Brown is out there. Says salute Stormy B-Man and my big bro Reggie Owens. Reggie's out there doing double duty out there in the chat as well. And let's see who else we got. Oh, it's jumping up now. I guess we got more people commenting. Let's see. We got Pigeon Mike is out there. It says salute Stormy. Andrew Charles says Povetkin had Bambi legs from the ring walk on. Yeah, something was up with that, wasn't it? Tab Investments is out there, says salute. Murr is out there. What's going on with you, Murr? Reggie, can we try to get you to come out and come back in? Because we can't hear you, bro.
Can you hear me?
I hear you now. What's good with you? How you doing?
Oh man, doing good, OG. Was enjoying this last fight. Pretty decent fight.
Yeah, it was a very decent scrape between two guys. And I'll tell you something, we talk about rematches all the time, right? This is why I say you don't just go on one fight. You know, sometimes guys have to go in there a couple of times. Not only because it's about trying to get back, right? getting back is, you can always, you know, get revenge or get your back or whatever. A guy hit you with a good shot, you can come back and hit him with a good shot. But one thing we want to say about rematches is it gives a person a chance to make adjustments, to search within and see what they can do about whatever it is that they faced where they've run into trouble and had a stumble. And once you're able to do that and show that you can overcome, that's one more tool that you've added to the box as you venture on your path in boxing. And White says he shouldn't have lost the first fight, right? But I'll tell you, he should have lost the first fight, because we saw him do two things different in this fight that he didn't even think of doing in the first fight. The first one being, first and foremost, Reggie, he came in shape tonight. Dillian White had abs at the weigh-in, bro. I commented that he didn't have him in the ring tonight. He looked a little more soft around the belly, which means he probably ate pretty good after the weigh-in. But at least when he showed up on the scales, you could see that he was in shape and ready to fight. That hasn't always been the case in his several last fights. If you remember, one of his fights, he came in at a woeful 270 plus. So just that alone was an adjustment that he made. And I'll tell you, when you're physically in shape and you've mentally prepared yourself and you know that you're in shape, you can endure more. You can put out more. And we saw tonight, the second thing was that he actually tried to box. And I said tried because there were a couple of occasions, even within those 4 rounds, where he got a little bit outside of himself and got a little anxious. But every time he proceeded to box, he was getting good results off of the boxing, and the knockout actually came off of him boxing. It didn't come from him winging and letting it fly. It came from him setting things up behind the most basic of weapons, his jab. What do you have to offer on that?
Yeah, that's exactly how I saw it. As far as the change is, he cleaned some things up. Being in shape, you can tell he was in great shape. He cleaned that up. Also working off the jab, controlling distance, and kind of slowing things down in that second round. The first round, he could have left himself open for a lot of things to go wrong, but he put a lot of pressure upon Povetkin, keeping Povetkin kind of off balance. Povetkin at times looking like he's on unsteady legs, and not so much from being hit with too many punches, but based on he couldn't get his legs up under him as he's trying to exit out from Dillian White swinging heavy kitchen sink type throws. He's swinging very, very heavy shots at Povetkin. Povetkin knew he needed to get up out of there, but then he began to slow things down the second round. I think he said in the post fight that his corner told him to slow down. And he admitted to being a little bit over anxious in his fight because all throughout the lead up to this camp, he just was bothered by the fact that he lost in the fashion in which he lost, because he felt that he shouldn't have lost to Povetkin in the first place. And that's why he's talking about this trilogy. Like you stated, rematches are necessary because you just can't leave off because he lost the fight in this fashion and just think that the other guy is better than him. And I showed I got tremendous respect for Dillian White following this fight, but I had a little slight respect for him after his last loss, being he didn't hang his head low, he didn't cry about it, he didn't mope around, he got right in front of the camera, made a little joke and humor about it, and he returned right back into this thing. And sometimes defeat is necessary because he locked into the lab, went in there and put in the work, and it showed. It showed in the way in which he looked, the way he presented himself, and we're going to see where he goes from there. But I enjoyed what I saw from him, and that's just working off the jab. Those straight line shots is what set him up, because those hooks, he was landing a lot of these power type hook shots, looking just over committing for the knockout, and it would never come. It didn't come until he started going back into textbook boxing, and those straight line shots is what created that more than what his hooks was able to do. But good performance by him.
Yeah, and like you said, we can talk about this until we're blue in the face, but it's something that people really need to take to task when we speak on it. We talk about fighters with rematches. I can't state it enough, Reggie. It you know when we say the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, thinking that you're going to get a different result, right? But in rematches, the person who doesn't go back to the drawing board and try to break themselves down, not the opponent, especially if you've been on the losing end. You don't break the opponent down, you break yourself down. And you begin to try to look at what your shortcomings are. And you try to make adjustments and tweaks to your shortcomings so that you don't put the same on display the next outing in a rematch. And for Povetkin, what I saw from him was something that was tremendously revealing. You know, he's never been warned to use a jab, right? He's kind of a guy who leaps in with his shots, and we see a lot of fighters who do that. When you're young and you have your reflexes, you can get away with that, a la Roy Jones, okay? But when you become an advanced age fighter in the game of boxing, you are supposed to rely on the subtleties of boxing basics to add to what you may have done well in your youth. Now, Povetkin, a lot of those leaping hooks and the timing of jumping in, that was all youth and enthusiasm and less wear and tear. But now that he's an advanced age fighter, the one thing that he could have benefited himself tremendously going into the rematch was to be able to jab. And he had no jab tonight, Reggie. And White was able to establish his somewhat. Because like I said, there were moments when he was just looking to try to hit the dude and open up. But his better senses got to him, and maybe his corner, and he would settle back into trying to operate off the jab. The jab sets up everything. The jab stops everything. The jab starts everything. The jab can meet something halfway. And I was yelling at the TV, throw a jab, you know, for Povetkin, because he wasn't throwing any. But it's one of those things, like I said, you go back to the gym, and how can you come out in the next match and give the guy a different look? It doesn't always have to be, you know, you do like the film Rocky 3 showed you when Rocky went to Apollo's gym and tried to learn how to fight one of the brothers out of California. You know, we ain't talking about that. We're talking about doing certain things, because if you want to land your power shots, you have to create a lane and an avenue for them to get there. You can't just start bombing. They're going to send Scud missiles up there to knock them out the sky. So this is what I noticed as I watched this fight. But rematches can be more and more intriguing, because the more of them that are had, and there have been some trilogies, there have been some fights where guys have fought 4 or 5 times, even more. If you go back to the days of Ray Robinson and guys like Jake LaMotta and those guys, they fought 6 times. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you really want to put it together, that's how you can tell what's going to happen. And then the familiarity that comes with you and your opponent. You might know you might be a little quicker than him. He might be a little stronger than you. You might have better footwork than he, and so forth and so on. So those adjustments really come into play. And tonight, you have to take your hat off to Dillian. He did the 2 most important things. That was to get himself in shape physically and mentally, and then also to operate behind using the jab. And it's ironic that the last punch he landed was his best punch. His best punch is a power hook. And the punch that worked best for him was his right hand. He landed some great right hands, and you heard him in the post-fight comments say, like, you know, his trainer told him, shorten that right hand up. Don't throw it so long and everything. Throw it short. Don't we talk about that? Every time we have shows where I do breakdowns and everything, I talk about these things about technique and the subtleties. When you can throw short shots instead of throwing long, lunging, looping shots, the advantage that you can have behind that, you're less likely to hurt yourself and more likely to more hurt the opponent. So, yeah, I agree with that. And kudos to White, man. He said he'll give the guy another fight. It's like, hey, and that's what makes boxing, because anytime those two guys get together, it's gonna be a rumble. What else you got on it, Reggie?
Man, no, I agree with you absolutely. My thing is with Dillian White moving forward, get into the gym immediately. And I think that's what he said he's going to do. He's going to spend 2 weeks with the family and get right back to it. And he also brought an American trainer over there. I seen some brother from America over there training him. And that's what a lot of these dudes are doing, bringing in cross the pond type, teachers of this game and bringing them over there. And it's a new resurge Dillian looks like. And Dillian has to get back into camp, keep the weight under control, and continue to go on. If he think he's going to get a shot at the title, and that's what he's talking about, title shots, he only got one shot, and the door was the fear was there because he only had one opportunity. He lost this fight. It kind of would have been a curtain call for him. So you're probably going to see a new resurgence of Dillian White moving forward, be based on where he was and how he feels now coming out of this victory. And he has to start taking this game serious. And I think that's maybe what you see up out of him. That may be what you see. But I also like it towards the end of the fight with Dillian White's rejection of that BS that the WBC tried to pull with him. As he inspected that belt, he was telling Eddie Hearn, man, get this belt up out of here, man. This ain't what I paid for. Where that diamond belt at?
Hey,
so,
Reggie, speak on that some more, man. Speak on that some more, because I saw that and I was cracking up just like I'm cracking up right now. When he looked at that belt, he was like, hey, what kind of BS is this?
Yeah. Hey, because, when he was looking for that stool, I thought he was immediately like, man, give me my belt. But he pulled up a stool, and then when the belt finally came, I kept seeing him look at it. I'm like, man, what is he complaining about now? I'm thinking he tripping about Povetkin picture on it or whatever it is. And he wasn't really too enthused about it. When they got to that mic, he immediately told Eddie, he said, man, this ain't the WBC diamond belt. He said, this ain't the belt that they charged us for. He said, man, get this out of here. He gave it back to Eddie Hearn, like Eddie Hearn wearing the belt. Like, man, get this out of here, man. He was more happy to take that coin he got from that president or whoever that was from Gibraltar. But the belt, he like, heck no, Mauricio ain't pulling this crap with me, man. Get this junk up out of here, man. And that's why I'm like, I got major respect to see him doing that, man.
Yes, sir. I saw that, man. And I was belly aching, bro. I tell you, because, yeah, it was supposed to be for that diamond belt, right? So where the belt at? And he said it's the belt that they won off of him. So it's like, he know what belt it is. He had the doggone belt. And it's like, they always, okay, when the fight ends, if a guy loses the belt, they'll let the guy who won in the ring carry the belt, take pictures with it and everything. But the belt gets returned to the person who lost it, later on. And then they'll mail you your belt. You're supposed to get your belt in the mail. But it's like, that wasn't even the same belt that he lost from Povetkin. So they tried to pull one on him. And I'm glad he said it where the mics were, because it's another talking point for people like us when we do these shows and stuff, where you get a chance, because they pay those sanctioning fees and everything, Reggie, and the WBC, they want to get their money up front. Matter of fact, before they even cut Dillian's check, the money been taken out. You know what I'm saying? Before the check was even processed or whatever, written out to him. So, yeah, he should make a fuss of it. And Hearn was trying to immediately, defer by bringing up Wilder. Did you notice that? It was like, man, even Dillian ain't said nothing about Wilder at this point, and here you are throwing Wilder's name. Oh, he emailed you, right? Or he DM'd you. Man, shut up and get the man his belt. and get him back in the ring in another couple of months. It's like, what you talking about, man? But yeah, you're right. Good for Dillian, man. Good for him. He didn't just smile and take pictures. He said something that time, and that was a good thing. And I also respect him for how he treated Povetkin after the fight, because Povetkin treated him with respect even after the knockout. In the first fight, he didn't gloat and dance around and pound his chest and all of that stuff. He just kind of like raised his hands up and everything. And Dillian kind of took up that lead. And I have to say this. You see, when fighters show that type of proper respect and everything, it sets an example. And Dillian would have looked like a real ass had he gone out there in this victory and jumped around and paraded around the ring like he was, Mr. Whatever and everything, and do a dance and whatnot and flips and all of that. No, he went out there. He went over there, checked, make sure Povetkin was okay. And Povetkin came back over there and thanked him for the opportunity. And, they were hugging and everything. That's respect, man. And two guys put on two good fights. So why not a rematch, a rubber match? I'd watch it. So, but that's what I wanted to say about that, because you see so much of the wrong things a lot of times, and not enough credit is given to the proper things.
Yeah, facts, man. And like I say, man, I had honorable respect for Dillian Whyte and his gestures following that fight. Like that's what warriors do. Man, you've been in combat with the guy, and a lot of times there's respect that forms between two people who've been in there to knock each other's head off, to where you just have this level of respect that's gained from that. And also with him, making his statement that he made about this belt, making that vocally, doing it in front of the camera, embarrassing the WBC, embarrassing Eddie Hearns, and also the fact that he's talking about even if Povetkin wants to do it again, and giving him another opportunity rather than, oh, I got my win and I'm gonna run away from you. This dude, I got a different level of respect for Dillian Whyte, and hopefully he maintained that. And I think he needs to have this level of humility instead of being a clown in the game, and just act like a fighter's supposed to. That's how fighters supposed to act, and I gotta respect that.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about their technique. Let's break this down, Reggie, because truly this is the fight that we were waiting to see on the DAZN card. We could talk even later at another time about the undercard, but there's something to be said. These, when this fight was originally announced, Whyte wanted it just like 3 to 6 months later. As someone else said, and I don't remember who it was, had it happened in that time, and I think it was those two guys who were discussing the fight in between the fights before the main event started. Had that fight happened as quick as Whyte originally wanted it, he may not have got such a positive result out of it, because it's too close to the loss for him to allow himself mentally to deal with what happened and to process it and to make him want to overcome. This is not about like, oh, he's a mental midget and he wouldn't be able to deal with it. What happens is, as you become more and more veteran, you get a couple of losses under your belt. Yeah, you can come back 3 months later or whatever because of the experiences. But remember, this was his first experience. Even though he got beaten by Joshua, the knockout from Povetkin was a more devastating knockout. It was the type of knockout that guys really need to go and get themselves together after that. So I think the layoff, and it wasn't a layoff because both of them were still in training throughout the process, but COVID intervened and the venue had to change and, all of this stuff. But to take that time out like he did, it weighed on him. He got a chance to see the people doing the memes like we've done and make fun of them and stuff like that. puts that fire in that belly. You see what I'm saying? And now you come out and you deal with issues and you've overcome. That's a little more fortitude that you're able to carry into another fight in the future. And those type of things won't get to you again because you've gone through it. You've shown that you can persevere and that you can, achieve another level, so to speak. And that's important. We try to talk about that a lot because so many of the young fighters of today, they don't want to get out there and really be tested. They don't want to see the embarrassment of being dropped, stopped, and having to go back and do damage control. But it's all a part of the process of life, man. If you're not even taking the losses in the ring, you're going to take the losses somewhere. So you may as well take them on the job, huh? Because that's where you're getting paid for it. And if you don't want your money to change or get shortened or something like that, that alone should be a motivational tool for you. But just to be able to prove to yourself that you can come back and use, as I said a moment ago, fortitude and go about your business in a proper manner, that's stating a lot. So, and that's important. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that the timing benefited Dillian majorly rather than rushing in there because, like stated, his thing was his embarrassment and what he felt that shouldn't have happened, feeling that he was the better fighter and wanting to expedite getting back in there. I think the time brought him more time to get himself in better shape, better preparation to going into this fight. I thought he would have tired out. And if he, based on what he was doing in that first round, had it been a shorter camp, him throwing all those punches, he would have definitely been faded. He wouldn't have been able to recover the way he recovered. Because I noticed in the following that first round, how he's throwing all these big, heavy shots. And looking at him in the corner, I didn't see him really breathing hard. So I'm like, he's lucky that this camp was extended and that it, afforded him an opportunity to get that level of cardio and ability to recover like he did. So that's a factor, and the fact that he got a chance to work on other things, and also that he started to listen in on his team. The first round he didn't, but following that he began to listen to him, settle in on what works. That aspect of just shooting off with the jabs, throwing these hooks, and the other thing Dillian did was he punched back. He punched in moments where Povetkin to move on in there, and that caused Povetkin to really be cautious about moving on the insides. Dillian threw a lot of big shots from there on the inside, heavy shots that had he not been given his time, he would have been faded. He would have been fatigued majorly in this fight. And even when he did get a little bit tired, I've seen the moments he was able to recover from it as well. Povetkin, things didn't look the same for him. And I think losing those 2 or 3 weeks he lost in training camp could have affected him. Him darting in, lunging in with shots, not so much of working on the working from the jab. From the jab. Him not placing the shots right and not throwing no uppercuts, because there's moments to where Dillian did make a mistake to avoid those shots. He kept leaning with his face squared to the ground, and I'm surprised Povetkin didn't pick up on that and try to find one of those uppercuts once again. But Dillian, those moments will have something to throw, so it caused Povetkin to have to worry about these counters, because Dillian did counter him quite well in that fight. And even counters that missed, Dillian made sure he threw something up on it. He had something on it that made Povetkin kind of have to have that in the back of his mind. Like, if I throw this punch, I need to be, mindful that, dang, this is coming. It's coming with a lot of heat on it. So that's the thing that time was able to buy Dillian Whyte. And hey, he worked it out well, and he's back in that column, man, and he's in a happy place.
Yeah, I agree with that. And something else that I noticed that Dillian was doing uh, tactically, he was a little bit crouched. He was fighting out of a little bit of a crouch where he wasn't standing as erect. And I think that also helped because that helped him when it was time to get his hands in position to be defensive and block and do things and move his body. Because when you stand erect, you kind of like more in a stiffer robotic position. But by him getting into that little bit of a crouch and getting behind that jab, uh, I think that helped him, and he was very effective with that. A subtle but simple adjustment that makes a difference. Also, your man Lennox Lewis, this guy, was in there with him for this camp. That Harold Knight guy, and I'm sure he was able to bring some of that tutelage that he may have picked up with Emmanuel Stewart when he and Lewis and Stewart were working together, and White may have been able to get some of that knowledge in the gym about how to handle himself and how to handle the opponent. Because if you notice, there were a couple of moments when they did get in clinches and stuff, how White actually tried to manhandle Povetkin a little bit, like show his strength and, kind of push him around a little bit. Those are those kind of things that we discussed once before. Like when Mike Tyson fought Lennox Lewis, Emmanuel Stewart had him be really rough with Mike and physical with Mike early on because he said that Mike always comes out with this frenetic energy that he likes to try to overwhelm people with. But when you tie a guy up and you wrestle him a little bit and make him a little tired, you take that out of him early. And now he's just got to concentrate on boxing and fighting. Whereas before, that was all a part of his intimidation factor, to be physical, come out and jump on you and be opposing. But when you wrestle them out of that and you make them a little tired, now they got to settle into fighting. And that's when you can start picking them apart and taking them to pieces. And again, I did notice White do that to him, be physical, when they were in close and things like that. Those are those little subtleties. Like the average guy watching boxing, he ain't gonna know or think about that because he's thinking about the punches flying, what's landing, and things like that. But it's those type of subtleties. Emmanuel Stewart was definitely a proponent of talking to Lennox about it, and some of his other fighters that may not have done it so well, like Donnell Nicholson. To be physical in there when you need to be is very important, because when that guy recognizes your strength and he's like, oh, well, I can't try him on that. Let me try something else. See, you have to stop things at the door. And when you do that, you've accomplished something. And then you can start building from there what you're trying to do. But if you're not aware of those things and that wave is coming over you, your normal anxiety and fatigue that comes with fighting will be multiplied by your exasperations about that physicality and things of that nature. It's very interesting. Want to go to the chat real quick. We got a few people that joined us out there. Nate the Great is out there. Says salute to Stormy and Reggie. Xena360 is out there. He says Povetkin looked terrible from round one. I'm done with UK boxing. Too shady. He said that fight. Zeno said that fight was suspect as hell. White got a longer count sleep in the ring than Povetkin did. Okay. Antoine Reed is out there, says salute Storm in the chat. And let's see, Sylvester is out there, says he says White is on a demolition mission. And he says respect to both fighters. Congratulations to White on his rematch win. Mark Stern said, fact, Stormy and Reggie, Dillian look better than I've ever seen him. He still has a lot to fix, but he definitely looked better. Absolutely. You have to give credit to a man who has attempted to make some adjustments. Again, that cannot be overlooked one iota. White could have came in the same as before, trying to do the same things without getting knocked out, and he would not have shown improvement. Tonight, he showed marked improvement, and you have to acknowledge that, whether you wanted Povetkin to win or White to be knocked out again or whatever. You have to give credit where credit is due. Go ahead and speak on it, Reggie. Whatever points that you want to make.
Yeah, the point where people try to take away from the fight. I mean, where boxing fans get being conspiracy theorists all the time. Like even in the chat, my chat, they talking about Povetkin look weird and almost trying to bring in the same stuff people want to put with the Wilder stuff. Almost trying to kind of insinuate that maybe he was poisoned or something. No, give respect. If you're watching the fight, you see Povetkin was falling back as Dylan White's putting pressure on him. And also you got to factor in, Povetkin's 41 years old. And he's still a danger at that age, but Dylan White did everything he was supposed to. And Dylan established his physical presence early on in that fight. Like you said, Dylan showed his strength. When they got in those clinches on the inside, Dillian made sure he let Povetkin feel where he is. It wasn't just out of walking it back. He let Povetkin know, hey, I'm in shape. He Povetkin, grab him and walk him completely across the dang ring and almost lifting him up off his feet. Then also with leaning him against the ropes, putting some weight up on him, possibly put a little strain on his back. Those are the tactics. Like, boxing fans have to stop the crying crap. Like, you don't like something. I wanted, to be honest, I was looking to see Povetkin knock Dillian out again. But as a fan of boxing, got respect and give respect where it's due. And Dillian showed that he's an honorable dude with the way in which he carried himself in victory. It was a solid win. It wasn't nothing to be taken away with that. I doubt if he cheated. Something comes out, then if it comes out, it comes out. But other than that, I've seen everything fair and square. I can't create this imagination of what, because you didn't see something go your way, you got to start injecting falsehoods into the fight. Like, respect is respect, and it was a good fight. It was a good change up, and it was a great adjustment for this dude. Dillian could have just ran around the ring, popped the jab, moved around. Dillian did not do what we seen AJ do against Luis. What's his name? Andy Ruiz. We didn't see Dylan White did that. He could have. He could have just jabbed, kept that guy on the outside. Dillian was looking to fight. Dillian was looking to avenge a loss that he took, and he fought a good fight. Can't take nothing away from that. That's my thoughts on that, OG.
Yeah, and I feel the same, man, because again, as you stated, people look for what's wrong and don't pay attention to what's going well or right. I saw the differences, as you heard me say early in the comments here. I noticed that White at the weigh-in, he had abs, okay, but when he got in the ring tonight, those abs weren't as tight as they were at the weigh-in, which tells me that he ate well, which is okay because he made the weight that he targeted for himself to come in at. And of course, you go and get rehydrated and you eat you a good meal and everything after that, after the weigh-in, right? The thing about it is, when you can notice that in a guy right away, White did not look like the guy that fought that big, what was the guy's name, Reggie, that he fought a little over a year ago when he came in at 270 something pounds? Remember?
I think that was Wallace. It was an older guy. I think that might have been Wallace, I think his name.
Yeah, there you go, Wallace. When he fought that dude, man, White needed a damn belly buster and a bra when he came in that night, when he fought that dude. And remember how woefully out of shape he was, so bad, like after one of the rounds, he could barely make it back to the corner. He was leaning over the ropes, huffing and puffing. Remember that? It was like ridiculous. But tonight, he looked like a man on a mission, and he looked like he was ready and well prepared and suited to go. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what it's supposed to be. Not the guy who showed up against Walsh a couple years ago, but the guy who showed up tonight. That's what he's supposed to be. And if he can build on that, God bless him. This is what we want from our fighters. There's a question out there in the chat. Let me see here. I want to catch it. There's a question from Murr. Salute to Murr out there. He says, OG and Reggie, why is it so difficult for fans to give credit to boxers, whether they like them or not? Reggie, you go ahead and give your take on that question.
I think people love for things to go their way. People want things only to go their way. I think people, when they have certain views of people, they hate to see them achieve a level of success. And I don't know, some people just can't keep things honest with themselves. And I think that's what it is. Some people, I don't, man, I see where it comes from. I don't understand it, but I see what it is. It's people's dislike for people. People pick and choose winners. People pick and choose favorites. People try to pick and choose outcomes that they want to see with things. And anytime those outcomes go against their beliefs or their predictions and thoughts and stuff, they come in with this type of crap of creating things to soften the way that them going wrong or something happening for someone else to feel, is to create these things in their mind to make them feel better, because I think they become hurt, or they hateful of seeing someone do something and or pulling off the unexpected. They have to create these things, and I think that's my thoughts. But to me, it's bugged out, man. I'm an anti not giving person his credit. Even when I dislike someone, I got to give them their credit. When you do things right, man, my thing, it's an honor in that. I got to give respect. Like I say, I was going for Povetkin, and I got to give him respect. When I watched my favorite fighter get knocked out, I got to give respect. And I was a young kid when that crap, a teenage kid, and the kid at the other one when I watched Lennox get knocked out. And I had to give respect to the person that did it. Well, no excuses or making them none of that stuff. I come no excuse background. People who raised me without excuses. So that's just the way I thrive off of that stuff. But when other people do it, I just think it's that people have certain hatred towards people and they only want to see failure in them. And when that doesn't happen, they have to create these things. And especially if it happens to their favorite fighter, they really go off the walls with the creation of excuses and refusal to give credit to the ones who defeated them. But that's my thoughts on that one.
Yeah, and allow me to give my little take on it. At the end of the day, a great deal of it has to do with people always wanting to dictate and have a say so in something that they're not even invested in. It's also called minding someone else's business. You think about it, man. There's a reason why a car only has one steering wheel and one set of brake and gas pedals. Huh? Could you imagine that in the back and across from you for the passenger? You'd never get to where you're going. Huh? Think about it. You can't have control over everything. But what you can do is take part in the understanding of what the process is and be observant enough to either participate, deny, or at least learn what the situation is. In boxing, there are people who just think that the sport is supposed to go one way. I remember Evander Holyfield said this about Mike Tyson when comparing himself to Mike Tyson from other, audience. People like Mike Tyson because he go out there and blaze people and knock them out brutally and quickly, right? Holyfield say, I do the same thing. It just might take me a few more rounds. He was like, but people like Tyson because it's done in an exciting fashion or whatever. For me, it may be a hard hat and lunch pail type effort, but I still get the job done in the same manner and fashion. And when they thought that the two of us were going to come together, they didn't think about, I go to work and he just gets it done quickly. That's why it wasn't going to be no quick fight with me and him, because I put in the work. And Mike has to worry about that work being put in against him. That's what Evander was saying. And it made all the sense in the world. Because, for those who think that just because somebody is strong or whatever, they should beat the other guy down. And then, even now, Reggie, when people talk about the Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas fight, right? They always say, man, I hate that dude, Buster Douglas. Oh, I don't even like to watch that fight with Mike when Buster Douglas won. He was like, man, I hate that fight. Why do they hate that fight, Reggie? Because they thought what was symbolic of a strong man, right? Check this out. This is deep. They thought what was representative of a strong man got put down, and that the entity that put that down, that snatched that idol off the tower for them, is something wrong with him. But they never think about that man defied odds, defied death in his family, defied the fact that people gave him no chance whatsoever because they just didn't respect him, even though he was 6'4", 230 pounds, okay, had fast hands, decent movement, okay, and a chin. They didn't think about the fact that he got off the canvas. And even when he got off the canvas, they would argue, well, because Don King led the charge on that, the long count, right? The long count. Oh, Buster got a long count. Well, yeah, he got up, the bell rang. And so Tyson wasn't able to finish him off then, but you still had rounds to go, right? But check this part out, Reggie. In the 8th round, when Buster got knocked down, he pounded his fist on the canvas like, dang. He took the full count. He got up. The bell rang. He comes out in the 9th round and beats Tyson worse than he had in any other round in the fight. But Tyson had, he was the man smashing people, right? The 9th round of that fight, Mike Tyson took the worst beating of his life in that round. But nobody talks about that. But all those Tyson lovers like to throw that fight in the garbage. They want to burn their videotapes and everything. But how dumb people can be, because I'll tell you something. You take that fight and you use that fight as a learning tool for anybody out there that's underprivileged, downtrodden, denied, and you put it out there and you show them, you see this man right here? This is the man that they didn't think had conviction, strength, and ability to overcome. And look at what he did. He took the magnificent monster that nobody thought could be compared to, and he snatched him off of that pedestal. And guess what else, Reggie? That monster, the symbol of fear and everything that had people shuddering, was never the same again. How about that?
Absolutely. And it's just what you're saying is all I used to hear. That's why I didn't like Tyson, because all you heard was, because it was almost, he's painted as an invincible man. And even in the streets, people spoke that way of Tyson. And I used to feel, man, I thought I knew people was tougher than Tyson. So I've always wanted to see this happen. And when people even went into this fight, they liked Tyson so dang much, they were willing to pay money to watch Tyson just knock people out. So almost seeing that he was invincible, there's no man on the planet to be able to defeat him. And Buster Douglas had other thoughts about that. And even coming out of this win, all you heard was a creation of impossible, why it was impossible. Oh no, the ref did this. This happened. Tyson, then the rape stuff happens. He didn't train and blah, blah, blah. That ain't got nothing to do with Buster Douglas. People just found any reason to dig into their bag of written-in or built-in excuses behind why Buster Douglas can never defeat this guy. And it just happened. The guy showed up, believed in himself. He didn't believe into kind of the depiction built up of Mike Tyson and the depiction that people who supported Tyson built up. And we see that even in today, it's probably even worse. People build up these depictions of certain people, this person being invincible, this person should never lose. And if he loses, this is what happened and this is the cause of it. And it's going to be hard for people to break away from it, but that's why they do it. And I tend to not follow into what people's beliefs are, because I expect to see them. When it came to the Wilder situation, I knew all this stuff that's thrown out here was going to happen. This is what happens in defeat. And even with some athletes, this is the kind of stuff that comes into it. Defeat is hard, but sometimes you pick yourself up from it. You pick up, you learn from it. That's the one thing I got to give Dillian White his respect, because when he lost to Povetkin, he didn't hang his head low. He didn't look for people to come to building excuses for him. His thing was, I'm coming back to knock this damn dude out. Same thing with my favorite fighter. Lose a fight, I'm coming back to knock this damn dude out. Even if the dude has a mental break in the ring, I don't care. I'm coming in here to fight this dude. I want to fight him because I don't believe I should have lost. Watch the video, study the tape, figure out what went on, what adjustments I need to be made, what need to be made. And that's what you do. Even with basketball team, football teams, you go back, you watch the tape of why you suffer the defeat to this team, see what adjustments need to be made, see how you should pace yourself, and blah, blah, blah goes on. And that's what you have to do. You just got to learn. And some days a person you count out may come and whoop on you. That's how I always use the story about my brother used to fight one of my neighbors all the time. My brother always used to start crap. And he used to always pick on my neighbor. They same age. My brother used to like to fight. He would just beat this kid up, beat him up, pick on him. They willingly fight each other. This one day, this kid, the tables turned. He ended up rocking my brother, putting the Hasim Rockman up on his eye, nodding him up. But my brother not wanting to stop, blah, blah, blah. But that day, the kid had his number. It's just some days these where you figure the things out. Oh man, this kid can't fight you, and blah blah. Stop picking on, and that kid believes in something. He ain't about to be coming out here doing this crap. He beat the brakes off my brother that day. But that's just the way it goes, man. Nobody's invincible. No man is invincible. You may defeat somebody at certain points, but that don't mean you'll beat a person 100 times if y'all were to fight 100 times. Sometimes the kid's going to figure out, and sometimes it's going to be that kid's day.
Yeah, man. So, to bring it back to these two guys, and for some of the comments that were left in the chat, like the condition that Povetkin may have been in and everything, let's not forget these important factors. Povetkin is like 42 years old. Povetkin, through the process of going into this rematch, contracted COVID. Okay? Maybe people and those who are making these comments, maybe he was affected by that and he still wanted to push through and persevere and try to be a champion of sorts by going through with the fight instead of just pulling out of the fight or something. And even with that being said, whether those were factors or not, one of the things that is a factor, no matter how you slice it, is he's an advanced age fighter and he's no longer who he used to be, and he's been stopped a few times. There comes a point where it's a check off and a hop off for a lot of fighters. Everyone does not have the same endurance and the ability to be enduring and absorbing of punishment. There are guys like Julio Cesar Chavez who took, out of nearly 100 fights, took punches to the head his whole career and doesn't slur any of his words. And you got other fighters who have fought less than 50 fights, who you can barely understand what they say. You understand? So boxing is that type of sport. It's not always something really crucial and bad, but it could be, as long as you've allowed yourself the wherewithal to absorb the information that's available to make a proper assessment. What we've assessed here was it was a good fight between these two guys tonight, and their styles mesh well with each other. And I believe whether Mr. Povetkin was in his 30s, or not, it would still be action-packed between the two of them because they are limited guys. Neither one of them are excelling or excellent at anything, but they are the type of fighters who have enough fortitude that they're going to get in there and try some things on each other. And it could be very entertaining when you tune in to watch them. That's how you have to be able to make the assessment of boxing. Anything beyond that, you need to be more prepped in the gym and understand what goes on behind the scenes and so forth and so on. But I don't believe there's anything conspiratory about what transpired tonight other than some time has lapsed. These guys, they could possibly get one more in with each other. But after that, And I said this earlier. I think Povetkin should retire because the style of fight that he fights, fighters at an advanced age, especially in the heavyweight division, begin to get beaten up badly because he can't leap in and leap out like he did when he was a younger man. You know what I'm saying? When he was younger, he was quicker. He had faster twitch muscles that punch that landed solidly tonight may have just glanced or, not landed at all when he was a younger man. So you have to be able to understand and make those type of assessments, but which is also why Dillian Whyte needs to also fight other guys, his contemporaries, guys that are at his level, guys that are at his age, and let's see some stuff. Stop fighting old war horses because he has fought a couple of them in his last couple of matches. So you have to make those type of assessments as well. You got anything on that, Reggie? What I was saying, or anything else to add to it?
No, that's all I have. But I think you're absolutely right. He needs to start fighting his contemporaries because I think his last three fights, even in this rematch, have been against 40-year-olds. So, but you're absolutely right on that.
But he don't want to get in there with Luis Ortiz, though. Come on, man. I think that would be a good fight. He might be able to get Ortiz because they, it's like it's funny how on paper you could think one thing about boxing, and then when you put the men together, the mishmash of styles present you with a whole nother dynamic that you may not have figured until they got in the ring with one another. You know what I'm saying? And then it becomes a totally different dance. That's why you got to see them, you got to see the fight take place. You can speculate all day long, and I said this when we talked about, in one of our other shows, when I talked about Wilder and AJ. They should have fought 3-4 years ago when they had that opportunity because both of them are undefeated now and lost to guys that nobody thought that they would lose to, right? But at the same time, had they fought one another 3-4 years ago, you don't really know who could have won because it's like you could say, yeah, Joshua's chinny and everything, but Joshua has a pretty powerful right hand and uppercut himself. And when Deontay Wilder fought Tyson Fury in their rematch, he got shook by a couple of shots from Fury, and Fury ain't known as a puncher. But if you think about that being AJ, what could have happened? You just don't know. So it's like on paper, you could say whatever you want because you like a certain guy. You could say whatever you want, but until those guys get in that ring, you just don't know what's going to happen, man. And it's like that's the end all. I was asked by Kano Loco Sports earlier, Reggie, who did I think was going to win? And I said it's a 50-50 fight. I said Dillian Whyte has proven that Povetkin can KO him. And I said that Povetkin has gotten up, proven that he could get off the canvas, when he's been dropped, which is two truisms, right? And tonight we saw both. We saw Whyte get hit with some shots, and he said it in the post-fight. He said, that dude hit me on my shoulder with a right hand. He was like, it didn't hit him on the chin, but it hit him on the shoulder. And it must have hurt. You know why, Reggie? Because he said something about it. And then we saw Povetkin go down, and it was over. So that's kind of 50-50 to me. Just like when I was asked who I think was going to win, and I said it was 50-50, that was one of those fights you could roll the dice. A lot of people were hoping to see Whyte get knocked out again. I even made comments. I said, hey, I'd like to have matching pairs of knockouts, Well, I still got matching pairs because it got Povetkin getting knocked out and Whyte getting knocked out now. So a meme for both. But, you just don't know until they get in there and do it. That's what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolute.
So we got some more comments by some people who joined us. Willie Beecham is asking, how much of a chance does Whyte now have against Wilder? Brown on Boxing is out there, says salute Stormy and Reggie. Salute to you, Brown on Boxing. Nitty G, my brother from the shot, says salute family. Hashtag LDBC Chicago. That fight was trash. You are absolutely wrong, Nitty G. It was not. Andrew Charles says true. I think it was just age showing itself. I forgot Povetkin had the Rona. Yeah, see? Y'all must have forgot, huh? Dark Truth is out there, says peace, Stormy B-Man, and peace to the chat. Ronald Haskins says, come on with the age thing. He has money, so his treatment for pre and post workout conditioning is different from regular people. Let me tell you something, Ronald Haskins. I don't know how old you are, brother, but I'm going to tell you, when age starts to creep up on you, it affects everyone in different ways. Everyone. So it don't matter how much money you got and all of that, dude. When Father Time hits you in a certain manner, it hits you in a certain manner. And that, listen, that's a truism in life, huh? It is. You might not like it, but it is. And just keep on living and you'll see what I'm talking about. J.A. Dixon says, salute Stormy B-Man. Silvestrio says, Ortiz versus White is fireworks. Yes, it is. Haskins says, Pack in his 40s and he beat Thurman. Yep. Andrew Charles says, White Ruiz would be a great fight. Throw Ortiz in the mix too. Dark Truth says, rubber match. And Haskins says, none. White can't beat Wilder in his dreams. Going back to that question, Reggie, where Willie Beecham says, how much of a chance does White have against Wilder? I'll let you open up with your comment on that one, Reggie.
He has a chance. I mean, you can't deny any of these dudes, especially at heavyweight. You can't deny him. And if Dillian White continues on where he's at right now, staying in shape, fighting his fight, there's a possibility. And if Wilder can't go into what we've been seeing in his last fights, and that's not boxing. Wilder hasn't been boxing. Wilder's been lining people up to deliver one shot. All that about fighters needing to be perfect for 12 rounds, him only needing 2 seconds. That model has to be rejected. He has to go back to boxing, and we haven't been seeing that. But I watched that second, even I watched the first and second Ruiz fights. No, what's his name? Ortiz fights. And it was once again Wilder not going into his boxing, leaving too much space for fighters to come after him. And even in multiple fights to where he's been allowing fighters to come after him. And it's just the one single shot that ends that. You may run into these fighters to where that shot never lands. And you have given up that many rounds of fighters just walking at you, placing the jab that lands and scores to pull away with points being earned on scorecards. You can't put yourself that far behind in fights. And if a punch never comes, it's been perfect that they have delivered. But the fact that he has kind of stepped away from being active with his ability to box, because that's even like the other day we're having a discussion on and I'm bringing it right back to it, discussions on fantasy matches, and it's like Wilder versus Tyson, Wilder versus Lennox, and this and that. And it's like he'll get smoked by these guys. He's not active enough. He doesn't have a lot of the movements and defensive movements to get out the way of stuff. When you watch Wilder, it's him making the twist. He doesn't bend a lot. He's not ducking up on the shots. He leans back, brings the hands up. There's a lot of things that you see that are lazy, and that's even from Mark Breland making those statements. Those are legit statements, but it ain't that Wilder can't do it. It's just that Wilder has found success abandoning boxing and relying on singular shots. Dillian White may bring something that taps into Wilder just doing these type of things on defense, blocking a shot. If Wilder goes back into using his beautiful dang jab, his ability to box, his moving around, you don't even see him move around that much. He don't look fluid, but could that be age factoring in with Deontay Wilder? Could it be these injuries factoring in with Wilder along with age? And age is a true aspect in the dang sport of boxing. Even Mayweather being undefeated spoke about that. The same thing we watch happen to the great Kobe Bryant when his body started breaking.
And injuries will make you age faster, Reggie. Injuries make you age faster. I just wanted to add that in, but keep on going.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that people have to factor in. He's had broken bones in the arms, Does that take away from his ability to deliver the velocity on those punches needed? And if you have that, that's even like Karl Malone, when his body began to break. He had to learn to develop post moves. Sean Kemp, all of them. So now, if you have abandoned boxing and you start to lose the ability because of injuries and it's slowing down the velocity, the twists needing to be put on the hips, and now that right hand ain't so much of a factor going in here with other guys, how effective are you going to be at these jabs? And a lot of times you don't even see him while they're using a technique on his jabs. It's kind of like rollover, flicked out jabs. He's just not utilizing the boxing. And Dillian Whyte has a chance if Wilder comes in there doing that stuff. So can't take anything away from him because Wilder has had like the 90% knockout ratio. He has to box. You have to box, and especially going in here with Dillian Whyte. Can he knock Dillian Whyte out? Yeah, if he lands the shot. But going in there fighting that style he's been fighting, you leave the door open for Dillian Whyte. And just because many people hate Dillian Whyte, that don't guarantee wins and victories at all. But that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, I think he will have an opportunity. He can possibly beat Wilder. All these dudes have a possibility of beating each other. And if Wilder had been more into opening up his boxing and being more active with his boxing, he'll have a better shot at really dusting a lot of these guys off, but he just hasn't. He's abandoned that. And it could be these other injury factors. Like I stated, he doesn't even seem to have it in his legs anymore. He doesn't have that mobility. The movement ain't there. So I don't know.
Yeah, and let me chime in on something that I like to say about that. Yeah, I think he has a chance against Wilder. He has something going for him that Wilder has yet to show, and that is Whyte has now come back from 2 knockout defeats. Uh, when you have a guy who has been successful beating down the opponents, and then he finds himself on the losing end by being knocked out like he's knocked out the opponents, that can do something to you mentally. Okay, and Whyte has now come back from that twice, which the first time, of course, it's a shock to the system. He lost by knockout to AJ, ironically by an uppercut, and then the second time by Povetkin in a more devastating manner. He's shown he can come back from that now. Just tonight, he's come back from the second knockout, but that's a door that he doesn't have to fear walking through anymore. That's so essential to a fighter to understand the process of defeat doesn't mean the end. Huh? And so Wilder is going to have to discover that for himself. He has now been defeated, and he has to come back from that defeat and show that he's still a guy who is capable of winning fights with his knockout, but it would be advisable that he comes back not just being that guy anymore, but to add some dimensions that may have been underlying there that he just got away from, rather than to show that he's one dimensional. Because if it turns out that he's one dimensional, what that means is there are simply fighters he will not beat. And that's more telling than a guy who can go back, break himself down, as I said earlier in the show, notice what his shortcomings are, and try to make adjustments to be able to be competitive and to be a winner at the same time. And that's really showing humility, when you can go and recognize what your shortcomings are and you make a proper adjustments. Like a guy like Amir Khan, give him a perfect example. Amir Khan could box, but it turned out that his weakness is he doesn't take flush shots well at all. So if you notice, he kept getting knocked out by, top class and top notch opponents, but he never made an adjustment to that. So that's a dumb boxer, because you could still box like the Dickens, right? But you make no adjustments to protect your chin. So you're going to get knocked out eventually. Let's just say it like that, because you won't make the adjustments. And fighters like that, they'll always, and you fans will be out there and laughing at them and making comments about them and everything, but not understanding the fact that it's the person that makes the adjustments. If Amir Khan had made adjustments and not allow himself to get hit on the chin so easily, which means probably not engaging and staying in too long where exchanges can happen and counters can happen to put him in a risky situation. If he makes those adjustments, those things don't happen. But because he didn't make the adjustments, the things happen continuously. So that's a dumb fighter. Okay? But again, Wilder has a chance to come back from what his setbacks were and to show himself first and the rest of the world what he can do with making adjustments. And it's not about coming back being mad at somebody and trying to hit them with all your might and knock their head off and all of that, because even in that, being emotional behind that can put you in a position to get your head knocked off again. So it's like, those are the things. And people don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. And it's something that you can look upon the history of boxing and you can see it happen. Huh? It took George Foreman 10 years of being in retirement to recognize, when he came back to the sport, that, oh, I have to make adjustments. And he did. And guess what, people? He became heavyweight champion again after 10 years off. Think about it. If George can do it, and I'm talking about making the adjustments, then you can do it, and your favorite fighter can do it, and the fighter you don't like can do it. Fighters you haven't heard of can do it. Huh? That's what that's all about. But people at the end of the day don't want to really hear the truth. Well, Stormy is always here to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. You know, you can keep you a cold drink next to you like I do, and you take a sip. Every time you hear something you don't like, you take your sip like this, and you say, damn, and you keep it moving. But that's what I got to say on that one, Reggie.
Absolutely. Y'all take a cold drink. And but man, that's just the reality of things. And people got to be honest, even with your favorite fighters, man, we don't see them doing something. And the thing that also gives Dillian Whyte a chance in there is he has a team that he seems to listen to, this coaching team that he has brought in. And is newfound dedication to the sport. Him leaving this country, going over here into Portugal, bringing the team out there, dedicating and training himself. And it showed. He's seems to have found a new stride in what he wants to do. And also looking to get back in there come sometime in the summer, which is probably 2 to 3 months away, and getting right back in there, not wasting any time, keeping himself active and kind of relevant with what's going on in the sport. And the fact that he listens to what his team has going on. He ain't dictating. And that's the thing with what we've seen come out this Wilder and Breland situation is he needs new team of coaching that's in the team, because not even so much as to buying in if Wilder dictate what goes on inside a training camp, but the fact that JD's and showing the hell ain't doing nothing. You listen to his instructions and fights, don't hear too much of what he's given. Don't hear him pushing what Wilder needs to do, to step up on it, to throw more jabs. You don't hear that. And then they came into this situation in which things didn't look good at all in that second Fury fight. And you didn't hear anything coming from anyone in that team. Anyone. And now people were afraid to stop a fight that needed to be stopped and all this other stupid stuff. You hear fans that are in support of the stupid stuff. Well, he said don't stop the fight. Like that shows me that right there just really showed me how lost people are within the sport of boxing. That they will do anything to hug the nuts of their favorite fighter and to buy into anything their favorite fighter is talking. Like people are just followers, sheeps. And people, that's why it's so easy to prostitute people, because you don't listen to whatever someone tells you. And the fact that people did not see, going into this fight, which bugs me, is the fact that when Breland stopped the fight, all of a sudden he's he's in on some conspiracy and thoughts like, no, he saved this damn fighter. And now y'all come up with all this other type of crap that makes no sense because everything contradicts each other. It's a poisoning. That if a guy poisons someone, what's the hell he's stopping the fight for? Should have wanted to watch the fighter go in there and die like the fighter wanted. But no, he stopped it. Because it was a no-win situation. And then to have the other coach sit there and look shocked that the other trainer stopped the fight, being they are the ones in command because the fighter told you not to stop it. That right there is where you need to change the team. And I think Dillion's on something different with a team that he's listened to. What they tell him is what he's going in there and following the plan. And with these camps, it looks like they're doing what needs to be done in these camps. And I've been seeing photos of the dedication, the running being put in there. That's what has to be done. I think Wilder should have had a different team and new trainers over there. But he has his success. You can't take nothing away, but it's just moving forward to what's out there. Everything going in now is a threat. Everything now is a threat. AJ has the ability to defeat Wilder because AJ can fight. AJ probably ain't got the most of heart, but now AJ's starting to gain a little confidence, and that can become dangerous in the fight if you're not willing to break down. That's why you got to reject all the excuses. Forget if it did happen. It ain't if it did all this other stuff that's going on, gloves, cheating, the evidence, they ain't investigating it. It's time to move beyond it. Get into the training. Looking forward to what you need to do to master this dude and master everyone out there, because that shield of invincibility, threat, and danger that was stripped away in that Fury fight. A lot of people don't feel anything to fear anymore. They're probably willing to get in the ring. I don't know if AJ is yet. He needs to have some heart and act like he's ready to fight Wilder. But Wilder can come in here and change everything. Wilder with boxing, off of that jab and good movement, ain't nobody messing with him. Ain't nobody messing with him. But he has to get back to his boxing and not let rounds go by and losing them. And fans have to stop being suckers and acting like prostitutes and stick to the reality of stuff. If the fighter ain't doing something, you need to recognize it and calling it out. But I see a lot of people in modern age, I don't know about it, but that's my thoughts, OG.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. We got a brother out here, Boss 22. He's asking a couple of questions. He made some comments on Wilder, but he's asking me, why does Jay Diaz get a pass from other LDBC members? Not one channel has called him out on anything. That sounds like a divisive question, and I don't really get into those divisive issues. Now, if you want to come over here and talk about how we break things down, as we've been doing, that's fine. But please don't come over here, Boss 22, whoever you are, talking about what other LDBC channels do. Stormy B-Man does what Stormy B-Man does. I don't care what anyone else does. This is not called everyone else's channel. This is called Stormy B-Man. You understand? So that's the first, last time I'll address that for you. If anyone like yourself or anyone else want to ask those kind of questions, you've been put on notice. This is what we talk about, what we've been talking about. This is the post-fight show with Stormy B-Man and Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, my co-host. And we've been enlightening our viewers and listeners with breakdowns of the fights that we witnessed this afternoon. Please don't come over here with that divisive mess. There's other seas to swim in. Plenty of it out there for you. J.A. Dixon says, context is king. Everything you believe that's different doesn't make it truth. Anything is possible, but not probable. But time will tell what's really going on. I don't know what that's based on, J.A. Dixon. The War Report is out there, says, greeting from the north side. What's good with you? That's the odd fella, isn't it? General Squirrels is out there, says,
Yeah, that's
in
it.
other words, get that bullshit out of here. And Bruce Goals is saluting the War Report. Good to see you, odd fella, man. It's been a minute since you've been over here. And we got to get you back on the Friday night chop session to chop it up with us, man. I know you and Reggie go at it sometimes. So we got to have odd fella back on one day. Big Texas Cletus is out there, says, who won? Dillian White won, Big Texas, and it was an exciting knockout, but it was a good fight. Go check it out. But yeah, Reggie, I know that you want to get to the UFC this evening, so if you want to give anybody some final thoughts on this as we begin to wrap it up, please do, and put your link in the channel if anybody want to come over there and check you out as you call the UFC. Don't forget to do that as well. And we got Drew Titan out there in the chat. He says, "Yo, what's good with you, Drew? Good to see you out there, bro." But yeah, go ahead, Reg.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I just want to address that thing with Boz, and like Boz ain't the only one who does it. Many people who I see do that when they come into channels and they watching this and that. And like I state, man, I'm not part of no group. I'm not in the LDBC, and I rock with a lot of brothers in the LDBC. But the fact that people come over here and they make everything as why the LDBC ain't do that, that's some sucker stuff for people to come about doing. That's not what men do. Everybody should have their opinions. People formulate their groups. Man shouldn't be jealous of what other men do. And for guys to come in and make everything, well, y'all ain't doing this, why y'all ain't address this person, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of people in the LDBC groups, and that doesn't mean everyone falls into the same ideologies and belief. And back to his question about the Breland thing, me people have addressed Mark Breland. I mean, not Breland, but have addressed the JD's thing. So the thing people looking in here to get on here when it's coming to talk boxing and create beefs and stuff, that's kind of whole stuff, and men don't do that kind of stuff. Regardless if you dislike people and you have different points of views, accept the fact that you got different points of views. But you speak your opinions. It ain't meant to drive down and create conflict. Because so much up on here, what kills off a lot of stuff is everybody on here whining, bickering about what other people's ideals and thoughts because they don't agree. That goes back to what we were talking about when people see certain fighters that they like lose, such as the Mike Tyson thing we're talking about. It's the same thing that goes and will do that. Everybody ain't meant to think alike. And that's never going to be the case. But you just listen to what people talk about, understand the psychology of people's thoughts, and this is what creates dialogue. It'd be a boring as hell world for people to think alike. I don't think like 90% of people. Sometimes my thoughts are different, and sometimes my beliefs and what I believe in are wrong as hell. And I only learn that through conversation and listening. It's a lot of times I'm wrong on a lot of ish that I have to correct, and I think that's the mutual respect that should be shared upon people, and not so much I'm part of this group and this is what we're talking, but everybody in the group doesn't think alike. So that's the thing for Boss 22. But you're over here for a reason to listen in and, man, get in with these good conversations and don't create the conflict. Just dive into real conversations. And that's what it's about. It's boxing talk, combat talk, and that's man talk. But that's my thoughts on that one, OG, and I'll put that link in for the play-by-play for that UFC event tonight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And man, I want to thank everybody that came out here in the chat this evening. Everybody that caught the broadcast, whether it was the one that KQKC called, the one that Reggie called, and then kind of local sports called one as well. If you brothers was out there in one of those chats checking out the fight, I hope you enjoyed the commentary and the calling of the matches, the action as it happened. The one thing about us as a community, we like to support one another, and we grow as a community because, as Reggie said, different views just make for a greater expanse of ideas. So listen, we'll be back next week. I think we got Boots. Is it Boots Ennis fighting next weekend, Reggie? So we'll get a chance to call that one and come back and talk about it. For those of you going to check Reggie out for the UFC fights tonight, he's going to post that link in the chat for you, and you can go and check that out. But this has been another great show. We thank everybody that has been out here to check us out. And Master Hand, you must don't know who I am, but it's a good thing we at the end of the show because you've already been taken care of. Peace to you. And peace to everybody out there. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Salute to General Squirrels out there in that super chat. He says, salute Sensei, appreciate your knowledge, and Reggie thinks on a level some of these cats can't understand. Absolutely.